Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm not outside Old Trafford. I'm not in the studio. I'm in my kitchen. And the weather outside in sunny Salford is not too sunny, to be honest with you. It is absolutely, well, it was spitting, now it's pouring down. So make sure you've got your parkers on if you've got one. Loads of stories to get through. I mean, listen, the main story, obviously, is Sir Jim Ratcliffe finally completing his 27.7% takeover of Manchester United, or whatever the exact figure is, which I'll get into in a minute. Before we get into all that, though, make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We want to get to 750,000 subscribers by the end of the season, and with your support, yes, we can do that. We can do that. No, we can do that. So click on the subscribe button. Also, as well, I've put a link in the pinned comment. I'm doing a bit of a fundraising for Cancer Research UK, the Keepy Uppy Challenge. You may have seen my half-baked attempts at Keepy Uppies on my Instagram. So if you can donate, anything is welcome. I know times are hard, but any little bit helps. Right, let's move on. Let's talk about Sir Jim Ratcliffe. So the news broke last night, I think it was 9:15, that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has completed his takeover, if you can call it that. His 27.7 stake takeover, which isn't a full takeover, obviously. We'll get to that in a minute, though, because some people are thinking that maybe this is the first step along the way to a full takeover, but let's stick to what we know for the time being. So I could pick anywhere. It's been reported everywhere, but here on the BBC, they've summed it up quite nicely. It says Manchester United, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's 1.25 billion deal for 27.7% stake is completed. Sir Jim Ratcliffe's deal to buy 27.7 stake in Manchester United has been completed. The British billionaire's investment is worth around $1.6 billion, which is 1.25 billion quid. The Glazer family, who have owned the 20-time English champion since 2005, will retain a majority stake in the club, but Ratcliffe's Ineos Group will take control of football operations. Now, what I like about this as well is Sir Jim Ratcliffe isn't pulling any punches with these statements. And it almost seems slightly bizarre that he's allowed to say these things. I'm glad he is. But his statement reads, to become co-owner of Manchester United is a great honour and comes with great responsibility. This marks the completion of the transaction, but just the beginning of our journey to take Manchester United back to the top of English, European and world football with world-class facilities for our fans. Work to achieve those objectives will accelerate from today. So he's kind of saying, look, there's a lot of things that need fixing, and I'm going to sort that. And in a way, that's saying there's a lot of things that have been left to go to rack and ruin under the Glazers. I mean, we all know that, but him saying that in the way he said it is that's surprising. I mean, I guess the sort of flip side to that argument, if he came out and said, I'm here to make sure United maintain the levels that they're at, everyone would think he'd gone absolutely mental. So, yeah, I understand why he's saying that. I just thought, okay. Probably perhaps didn't expect him to be so sort of forthright in what he's about and what he's doing, to be honest with you, because you might have thought he'd be a little bit more coy and be slightly like, oh, things aren't too bad and we're just gonna, I'm excited or whatever. But no, he's proper gone for it with that statement. There's also been a statement from Joel Glazer, if I can just find it here. United co-chairman Joel Glazer added, I would like to welcome Sir Jim as co-owner and look forward to working closely with him and Ineos Sport to deliver a bright future for Manchester United. I mean, yeah, a brighter future for Manchester United. Listen, we know what's going on with this sort of setup now. Sir Jim's obviously in football side of things, but there's going to be like this sort of triumvirate, I think, of people involved. I think there's Sir Jim, there's Dave Brailsford. Joel Glazer obviously still going to have a say as well, although the Glazers, from what we gather, are going to be more concerned with the commercial side of the business. I mean, I'm just looking forward to hopefully getting back to being a proper football club. Since this move's been announced, we've seen other moves being taking place. We've seen United obviously getting Omar Barada in, going for Dan Ashworth. I know that's sort of become a bit of a soap opera, if you will, with Newcastle playing hardball. We keep hearing about the looking for different people to come and join the football side of things. Jason Wilcox, the former Blackburn winger, who's been doing bits as a sporting director at Southampton, I think it is, has been linked as well. There's a lot of moves being undertaken in terms of getting the right structure in place. Things that we've been speaking about, many United fans I've spoke to and us on the channel have been speaking about for years. Even going back to, Sir Alex Ferguson days, we were saying, look, when Fergie leaves, you need to get a structure in place. You can't just have another Sir Alex Ferguson. That ain't going to happen. And we haven't tried to put a proper structure in place. We've seen clubs like, pains me to say it, City, I know we spent a lot of money, but they've had a proper structure. Liverpool as well have these structures in place where you've had someone who knows what they're doing on the football side of things, helping the manager, scouting players, bringing the right players in, not just sort of buying players either the manager doesn't want, or, as was the case a little bit with Eric Ten Hag, just getting every regardless of the price for a certain amount of time and then not getting anyone for him when it came to the January transfer window. It made no sense. And hopefully now with the right structure in place, we can see it moving forward. I mean, there's a lot of sort of rumours, conjecture going around now. What's the next step? And I've said this all along. I don't think Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants to just own 27.7% of Manchester United. Now, I think his shareholding will actually go up slightly. Anyway, it won't just stay at 27.7%. It is. I think it increases to 28.9. There was a tweet from Laurie Whitwell from The Athletic last night. It says further shares have been issued in return for initial $200 million capital investment made by Ratcliffe upon completion, taking his total ownership to 27.7%. A further $100 million will be invested by December the 31st, and his ownership will then increase to 28.9. It's edging closer, innit? 28.9. Ooh. Let's not forget, and I keep saying this, the Glazers came in, and I think, was it in like March or whatever it was in 2003, 2004? Forgive me, I'm getting the dates a little bit wrong. They owned like less than 3%. And by 2005, they owned 90 odd percent, and it was a full takeover. So don't be surprised if the first steps. I don't see someone like Sir Jim Ratcliffe going, I just own a little bit, I just own just under a third, and then we'll listen to the Glazers and they can sort of tell me what to do when it comes to the commercial side. And I'll just look after this little bit. Come on. This guy is a mega successful businessman. He's someone who likes to be in control, who likes to stamp his authority on companies or businesses or assets or whatever you want to call it. I know Manchester United means a lot more than that. So I would be shocked if he's going to settle for just this 28.9% or whatever it is going to be by December the 31st. So interesting times afoot. Also, there was talk of as well that he's willing to walk away from Nice, I think, if he has to, because there was some sort of question there about whether he can own two clubs or Ineos can own two clubs and have a say in the running of those clubs. So, listen, Manchester United is obviously his baby. He's a lifelong United fan. I know there was that dalliance with Chelsea, but he never denied the fact that he had been going to Old Trafford when he was a kid. I know from people who spoke to him when they showed him around the club, he spoke like a fan. He was sort of waxing lyrical about when he used to come to the club, where he used to sit, all that jazz when he was a kid. So he's obviously a United fan, very successful. I want to see that success at Manchester United. Now, I've said it all along and I'll keep saying it. I'm not just going to blindly follow Sir Jim Ratcliffe off the edge of a cliff. If I think he's doing something wrong or if I think he's not got the best interests of the club at heart, then I'm going to call him out like I would do with any Manchester United owner. But I think he deserves a chance. And from what I've seen so far, I've been impressed. But we'll see how it all pans out. Just another quick story as well. Wayne Rooney was speaking to Gary Neville on his podcast. I always forget, there's so many different names. It's Stick to Football on this one, isn't it? The Stick to Football podcast. And he was talking about the time when it all sort of went sour for Wayne Rooney with Sir Alex Ferguson and the transfer request. And it's weird with this one, because I remember when it happened, I was raging at Rooney. But it kind of makes a decent argument here when he was talking about the fact we lost Tevez, we lost Ronaldo. He wanted some reassurances about where the club was going and whether the club was, going to be as aggressive they could be in the transfer market and keep sort of challenging at the very top. Didn't think he'd got them, put in a transfer request. Then he got those assurances and he sort of apologized and went back on it. Now, he didn't handle it in the best way. And he says that himself on the Stick to Football podcast. But I think he might have had a little bit of a case when it was like, what's going on here? I mean, if you're Wayne Rooney, you're playing alongside Cristiano Ronaldo and Carlos Tevez, and then both of them leave, you're going to be a little bit concerned, especially if you don't feel like the club are making the transfer decisions that they should be. But it's interesting. I've not watched the full video. I've just seen the quote, so I'll go and check that out. Make sure, I'm going to wrap it up there. Make sure you are hitting like, share, and subscribe, and check out that link that I've pinned in the comment as well to raise a few quid for Cancer Research UK. I'm going to be back later on. We've got a couple of podcasts coming up this afternoon. We've got a podcast at around, I think, early evening around 7 o'clock. And then we've got Paddock live as well. So if you're not doing, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of that good stuff. I've been Jay Motty in the kitchen looking out of a window where it's a bit grim in Salford at the minute. But hopefully, now the Sir Jim Ratcliffe revolution is underway, the sun is going to be shining at Old Trafford. I'll see you on the next one.